do sales and social media in the law enforcement industry.
I'm Marcia, and I'm not a real big newbie, but I'm finally launching my blog, and everybody likes it so far. So I'm really pleased. I do want to go over HT Access tonight. If somebody would do that for me, thank you very much.
Cool.
My name's Corinne. I'm a registered dietetic technician and owner of the Food Cop. I recently finished my first WordPress website and decided now I should come to the WordPress meetup. Find out what I did wrong.
I think you got it backwards.
I know. You're welcome.
I'm David Arsenault. I work with a local nonprofit, and I have 11 WordPress sites under my belt.
Very cool.
I'm Suzanne. I work with WordPress. I have about a little over 200 sites, and I work with it.
Excellent. I have 300 sites.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
I'm Sherry, and I'm a graphic designer, and I'm doing WordPress on the side.
Excellent. As you're taking a sip, Kathy.
I'm Kathy. I have 20 WordPress sites, and my dog has 5. We have fun fooling around with it.
Yeah, I'm Sandy Schrein. I'm a computer consultant. I specialize in data warehousing, business intelligence, and I put my first WordPress site up about 4 or 5 months ago. I'm about 3 of them up now, and I'm fun with it.
Cool.
Also, I'm an artist.
Okay, excellent.
Hello, as walked in. My name is Michael. I'm not a WordPress. I'm just now getting involved in WordPress, and I have a blog to WordPress. And I'm getting my feet wet and trying to transition my website to a WordPress site. So that's me. So that's why I'm here.
Excellent.
I'm Edward Kaufman. I've got 2 WordPress.com sites. I want to change to Oracle.
Cool. Art.
My name is Art, and I develop my own company in the fitness business.
My name is John Rainey. I run an advertising company, and I'm looking to build my first WordPress.
Cool. We're going to skip over there.
My name is Chris Draper. I know people that know people. I know nothing about WordPress. I do social media, and I find you guys to do this stuff, but this is the part I don't do.
I know people that know nobody.
But you know me.
I do. Okay. I know, and you know people that, never mind.
But you recognize me.
I do.
Okay.
My name is Jamie, and actually don't know anybody because my wife just moved out here about 6 weeks ago.
From
Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And we run a workshop at Newport, just down there. Do a lot of WordPress work, a lot of custom WordPress stuff, plugin development, things like that. So connect with new people, and as you identify yourself as designers, I need some, so we talk.
Excellent. What's the name of the shop?
Wonder Dojo.
Okay. Excellent.
Hi, my name is Melanie. I'm his wife, so everything he just said.
The better half.
My name is Ryder Smith. I'm Smith, and we do marketing, public affairs, and sales representation for clients. We do a ton of consulting work as well, and then hybrid mix as far as we do website work for people. And I'm here tonight looking for a lot of data I need some help with some supplemental WordPress development services. So please see me if you are interested in doing stuff like that.
Cool.
My name is Terry Nassick. I'm a graphic web designer. I've been graphic design for about 20 years, and been into WordPress for about 2 years now. And
Priscilla.
I'm Priscilla Christian, and
You're the Empress.
I got a WordPress job, damn it.
Yeah.
And I'm managing other I'm scared soon.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
My name is David Edwards. I'm a parking engineer, mixing engineer, and just got a taste of WordPress not too long ago and like it. And I've recently started a new company called WP Media Group, and we do promo videos for the web.
Cool. It's getting loud next door.
My name is Dennis Carpenter. I blog as a hobby. I work for Deluxe Corporation now as a national account manager, focus on selling reseller packages to agencies, developers, franchisers, publishers, anybody who wants a white label platform for their own social marketing.
Cool.
My name is Michael. I just recently graduated in May from USC and
Congratulations.
took some web development classes and I'm just interested in learning more.
Excellent.
I'm Mary Ann, and I run Skylar Puppies, and we're always looking for families who want to raise puppies also, but we love your and enjoy the rest.
I'm Greg Franklin, web developer out
They're yelling for you, Greg. Say it one more time. I couldn't hear. They were yelling next door.
I'm Greg Franklin. I'm a web developer out in Inland Empire.
Cool. Brandon's floating around here somewhere. I think he's in the conference room, but he'll introduce himself later. I miss anybody that came in late? Yep.
Hi, I'm Jim Ford with iNet Real Estate, and I do word stuff work for a lot of real estate agents.
Great. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Steve Zehngut. My company is called Zeek Interactive. I have two other companies, one called Real Estate Shows and one called Dashter. This is my office. We've been hosting this group for 2 years, something along those lines. I don't remember. Something along those lines. So a lot of friendly faces, a lot of new faces. So part of the reason we started this group was for the networking aspect. So we will cover some topics tonight, we will discuss, but then afterwards we have time to get together and meet and get to know each other and talk about projects and you know, all that good stuff. So that was really the sort of the purpose of this group, because when we started it, there was really nothing like this in Orange County. There's one other group that meets in the neighborhood that I always like to give a plug for, that I actually went this past Saturday. It's SMMOC. If you're not already going there, it's something you should consider going to. It's a social media mastermind in Orange County. They meet almost every Saturday morning in Costa Mesa out of Klingeman Creative. So I think if you just go on to meetup.com and look at SMMOC, you'll find them. So there's a lot of crossover between the two groups. A lot of people that attend this group attend that group as well. So that's definitely something you should
Suzette's got a new group.
What's that?
Suzette has a new group.
Suzette has a new group as well? Yes, please. Let's talk about it.
We have a group that meets on the third Wednesday of every month, and the focus is graphic designer and web design. So we're here, it gets a little bit more technical. This is a little bit the soft design.
Cool. And what's the name of it? How do you find the group on Meetup?
It is WordPress Wednesdays, OCWP WD on Meetup.
Cool. This group actually has we have two meetings. This is our general meetup, which meets on the last Monday of every month, which is what you're at. So if you're non-technical, you're in the right place. And we have a very technical meetup, which is the same meetup, which is Developer Day, which is usually about the second Monday of every month. So they're both on the same meetup group, but if you're not technical, Developer Day may or may not be for you. I highly encourage everybody to come, even if stuff's over your head. You might learn some stuff by osmosis. But it is really for developers. We really do talk code. That's what we do specifically on Developer Day. So tonight we talk more about just sort of general uses of WordPress. We will get a little bit into some technical stuff, but we don't dive too deep technically. Why am I the only one with an orange shirt on tonight?
Mine is dirty. I wore it 2 days in a row.
Okay. Who attended WordCamp? Okay, excellent. San Francisco WordCamp is the next one coming up, I think. Sold out in a day, half a day, about. So when WordCamp tickets come on sale, you got to grab them quick. Otherwise you can't get them.
What's it about?
WordCamp is same kind of thing as this, but it's an all-day sort of event with 1-hour sessions, and there were sessions on almost everything.
Different topics.
Yeah, all kinds of WordPress.
Internet. All WordPress.
Oh yeah, no, specifically about WordPress. So WordCamp is about WordPress. WordCamp is the WordPress conference that sort of travels around the world. It doesn't travel; it's held all around the world. So the three local ones here are LA, Orange County, and San Diego. All have WordCamp. So we just had San Diego, and we just recently had Orange County. When's LA? In September? September, LA WordCamp is coming up. Were tickets already on sale for that yet?
I don't think so yet.
Okay, so keep an eye for that one, because like you said, when tickets come on sale, grab them. I actually know I'm not going to San Francisco WordCamp. I know I've got my kids that weekend, but I bought a ticket anyway, just in case, on the off chance I gave that Saturday off.
Tickets are only $20 for WordCamp. Unless you're John Brown, then it's $650, according to the Facebook group. But I highly recommend that you attend WordCamps. They're always very informative and very interactive. There's one other announcement I was going to make. It'll come to me. Oh yes, the Facebook page. So for the new faces in the room, we also have an online resource. We have a Facebook group. It's a closed group, but this is the companion group for this group. This is a very active Facebook group. So this is constantly there's a constant discussion here every day, all day, and if you post something, you get a response almost immediately. So we're very enthusiastic about this group. We all participate, and there's a lot of really good information to glean from this group. So if you want to be on this, you can just send me a mail on Facebook, and I'll add you to the group, or send me a friend request, and I'll add you to the group, and just remind me what it's for. Several of the actually, if you're an admin for this group, raise your hand. So me and Jason and Brandon. So there's other admins in the room that can add you as well. Did I miss anything?
What's your email?
steve@zeek.com.
steve@zeek.com. Do you have a Wi-Fi here?
I do. So the Wi-Fi you want to log into is Zeek Public. Actually, the Zeek Public 5G, if your computer can do that. Most recent computers can do that. And then the password is Zeek, all lowercase. It's actually on my desktop. There it is.
One word?
Yeah, it's right there. I think that's it for announcements, for stuff about the group right now. Did I miss anything? All right. So if you went to SMMOC this past Saturday, we sort of took it over with WordPress topics for a little while, which was kind of cool. But a lot of stuff came out of SMMOC, and specifically we were talking about themes, how to install a theme, what's a theme, show of hands, and it's okay if you don't know. Who in the room does not know what I'm talking about right now? Does not know what a theme is? Good. All right. Who's running WordPress 3.4? Good. All right. So one of the things I want to show, and I did a very quick breakout session at SMMOC, is I wanted to kind of show you what just came about in 3.4 and sort of the power of the theme viewer, which I think is really, really cool. But I'm going to take a break for a second and talk about DesktopServer, which was just shown at our Developer Day 2 weeks ago. Stephen Carroll came up from San Diego. This is his product. He developed it. If you're not using this product and you're developing WordPress, you're wasting time. This is a major time saver. And I was a huge MAMP cheerleader for a long, long time. As soon as I saw this, I ditched it. And I'm only using this now for my local machine. Yes? What does
Mac,
it do?
PC, or both?
Mac and PC.
Thank you.
Okay. So what this does, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about with MAMP, Xampp, or DesktopServer, is this creates a local web server on your machine so that you can develop your website in private, or just have a development box. It basically becomes your development server on your local machine. DesktopServer is based off of Xampp, Xampp, is that, whatever. But what I didn't realize is Xampp is actually way faster than MAMP ever was. So we were all experiencing here at Zeek a lot of slowdown that we didn't know we had just using MAMP. As soon as I put in DesktopServer and started running this, I immediately noticed a speed increase. So this is a major time saver, well worth the $50. Is that what DesktopServer costs? I think it's $50. Absolutely. So if you're not already running this, run out and buy a license. And not only is it a great software, but the guy behind this is a fantastic customer support person. He will answer your question personally if you've got any problems with this server, with this software. As soon as I ran it, I was hitting a little problem when I hit the save button. He knew about it right away. He emailed me a fix. I fixed it. Done. I was off and running. Bob has been having some issues, and Stephen's been talking him through this. And several of us in this room have experienced that same customer support from Stephen Carroll. So I can't say enough about this product. Unlike SMMOC, this is a pitch zone. SMMOC is a no pitch zone. I don't mind pitching product, especially good product. This is good. And I'll tell you when I think something is bad. Everybody here knows I'm not shy about that. So the reason I popped this open is I wanted to show you how easy it is now to create a local install of WordPress. What's great about this product is Xampp and MAMP and WAMP are just sort of a bare bones web server. When you're working with WordPress, you still have to sort of install the WordPress file. You set up a domain, you still have to install the WordPress file, set up the database, connect them together. This does it all for you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to hit create a new development site. I've got my websites folder here open on purpose so you can see what's happening. I'm going to click next. I'm just going to call it steve.dev, okay, which is just my local dev URL. Hit create. You can see now it created a steve.dev folder here. It's creating all the folders that I need. It's going to then create the database, and it's going to create a WP config file for me. So the WordPress site is already set up to talk to the database that it's created. It's pretty sweet. That alone, just saved me 10 minutes. I don't know what your time's worth, but that's $50 right there.
But if you're short of cash, you can do 3 for free.
You can do what?
You can do 3 for free.
3 sites for free. There you go. And was there a discount code for a while for our group? It's on the Facebook group, I think. Yes, Priscilla?
It was OCWP.
OCWP is the discount code? Yes.
I don't know because I haven't.
Okay.
I'm sure you just said this, can you apply this to an existing site?
Yeah.
Can you apply it to an existing site?
You created a new one just now.
I created a new one. If you wanted to apply it to an existing site, you create an empty site and just drag those files in. Is basically how you do it. I missed a step here. I didn't really explain this step, but this is it's called a blueprint. So a blueprint will make it so that you can install a certain version of WordPress or just have a blank site. So when you go to create the site, you tell it what template you want to use. And you can actually create these templates. If you wanted to test an old version of WordPress, you can actually create these blueprints very easily for yourself. Or any website for that matter. It doesn't have to be WordPress. So a blueprint can be anything. It's a major time saver here. Cool? Make sense? Okay, so I've created steve.dev. And I'm ready to go. Again, this is stuff that I had to used to do, a complete manual process, setting up the WP config file, setting up the htaccess file, getting those things ready. It's all done for me. Okay. So my WordPress site is now ready to go. Now I skipped something really quick, and I don't know if this is necessary to talk about in this group tonight or not. Does everybody know the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org? Does anybody need that quick explanation? It's okay to raise your hand if you need it. Okay. So WordPress.com is a hosted version of WordPress. It's run by Automatic. If you go there, actually, I have it here on purpose. I only have this site for development purposes, but that's zengi.wordpress.com. So if you set up a site there, you can do it in 5 minutes, set up an account, and you're off and running with WordPress. It's a great place to learn sort of the ins and outs of WordPress, but it is very limited. Actually, it's not very limited, it's limited. At some point, you're going to hit a cap when you want to start to do custom stuff with your WordPress site. But for most people that are learning WordPress, this is a great place to go. And actually, I send a lot of my clients and friends here just to go and learn the tool, because I didn't have to go through the process of getting a host and setting up files and dealing with all the technical stuff. Just go set up an account and you've got a WordPress site. But what's missing, if you're familiar with the back end of WordPress, there's no plugins tab. Okay, on purpose, because you can't install your own plugins and themes on WordPress.com. That's really the major difference. WordPress.org is where you get the software, you host it yourself. So what I just did in DesktopServer is the WordPress software being installed on my machine, so I have full control over what's there. Okay, but actually, I'm glad I pulled this up because I don't have any themes at my new site. This was the major change in 3.4. So themes area looks pretty much the same, except for something that Shredder contributed, right? It now has the lazy loading, right, or the more loading for. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this continuous scroll of themes used to sort of take forever in the old WordPress. It now has lazy loading, so the images are loading as I go. Shredder actually contributed that to the core code of WordPress. But here's sort of the beauty of this particular feature in WordPress 3.4. So in versions of WordPress before 3.4, if I wanted to make a change to my theme, it would affect the front end of my website. So I would make the change, go look at it, and then go back and make some more changes and go look at it again. Okay? There was a kind of a preview mode, but it wasn't really a true preview. So if I was making changes, my end users were seeing the changes in the theme. Okay? Doesn't happen like that anymore in WordPress 3.4. So I can actually go in and preview themes and make custom changes to my theme without it affecting the front end of my website. So I can do that all in the background before I make it live. Does that make sense?
Can you do that? How are you going to do it?
Yeah, I'm going to do it right now. No, I'm just going to leave it like this. Cool, huh? The feature you're looking for is live preview. So this, on a WordPress, on a self-hosted WordPress site, this doesn't actually show up until you install the theme. So you actually have to install the theme first. You don't activate it yet, but now your choices are either activate, which makes it live, or live preview. And what live preview does is, now I see my content in the new theme as if it were live. And again, this is all happening on the back end. This hasn't gone public yet. But the beauty of this is any of the options that I have for a theme, I can actually change inside of this preview mode and see how it's going to look, again, before I make it live. So let's just change the header text, change that to red, change the background color to blue. Let's see if I have a file here.
Did you just say that this isn't 3.4?
This is 3.4.
Oh, I was going to say, because I thought it was imagined back.
No, this is 3.4. Throwing a picture of El Guapo. So I can go in and fully customize and view my theme. Nothing is public yet. This is just for me to see in the back end. That's what's new in 3.4. Really, really powerful stuff. Okay, especially if you change your theme a lot or go in and do these kinds of changes. So all the settings with the theme are available here. Does that make sense? I don't like it. Great. I hit cancel. It's done. I didn't affect my site. None of my end users knew the difference.
And this is a desktop server that you're using.
No, actually, I'm on WordPress.com right now because
okay.
I don't have any themes installed in the site I just set up. I'm going to install some themes in a minute. I didn't have any themes installed. So this is, again, anything you're doing in 3.4, if you have a theme installed, you have this capability, whether it's on .com or self-hosted. That was the major change in WordPress 3.4. Make sense? Questions on that? Okay. Here's the other thing that I think is cool about DesktopServer is the way Xampp works and the way that they've set my configuration files is, maybe I'm the only one who experienced this, but in MAMP, I didn't have the ability to do theme installs, theme additions, plugin additions on my local version of my website. So these kinds of things, these sort of tools, install themes and add new plugins, are always sort of disabled by default in MAMP. And again, it's possibly the way I was configuring my machine, but I'd have to go in and make some configuration adjustments. These never worked for me. With Xampp, with DesktopServer, it's already set up to work. You're looking at me like I'm nuts.
No, I'm surprised it didn't work, man.
Again, might be me specific, but I didn't take the time to go figure it out, and since I have DesktopServer now, I don't have to worry about it. But this is how, if you don't know this already, but this is how you install themes. So we're just going to go ahead and look for a couple of themes. Did some filtering. This is all pulling from the WordPress codex. So these are free themes. Sure. Go ahead and install that one. Once it's installed, now I can do that live preview. So this is in the local site that I set up for DesktopServer. So same kind of thing I just showed you on WordPress.com is available here. And again, this particular theme has different options than 2011. So these are the only things I can change: is the site title and tagline, and what the front page does. So this particular theme doesn't have a lot of options to it, but that's how it works. Yeah.
When you install DesktopServer and create multiple website instances, is it using URL mapping to map them, or does it actually assign multiple IP addresses to your local machine so you can, if you put the right entries in, actually access those remotely?
Let's take a look. Sure, do you know the answer to that question?
I missed it. URL mapping for DesktopServer. I don't think it's multiple IPs.
Yeah, it's all based off one IP address. Down there. But the reason I pulled up the desktop here is now that I've installed that theme through WordPress, there it is right there. That's the theme I just installed. Okay. If I want to get rid of it, I can go back to the themes. Bella, click delete. Yes, I'm sure. Now it's gone. Okay. Same thing with plugins. There's the name of the plugin. There's the plugin I just installed, the CSS plugin. All right. Questions? Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck right here. How do you get, when you install the plugin, how do you get from the dashboard to the to your page? I know you got to use code or transfer codes.
It depends on the plugin.
Like short code or.
It depends on what you're wanting
like
to do.
Like a slider, a particular slider.
Well, what's a good example of a slider plugin?
Well, like V-slider, that's what I'm trying to do.
V-slider?
V-slider.
I'm not personally familiar with it, but again, it depends. Is this one?
Yeah.
There's so many different
that's why I wanted to pull up the.
So I'm having a hard time with this, and I had to get it from I downloaded it, no problem. But how do you get it from the dashboard to the page? Yeah.
I don't know if I know enough about this plugin to answer that right off.
Okay.
Does anybody have any experience with this plugin in the room? Yeah. This it looks to me like they're making it so that you actually create the slider first and then install it with a shortcode. It's probably what this does. Again, without delving too much into it, I can look at this a little bit later.
I was able to do it as a widget.
Okay.
And I transported the sidebar as a widget, but I want to do like the whole page, like a full page slider.
It may not be available in that plugin. I don't know enough about it. Yes.
Mine creates a menu item down below settings, and so when you click in that tab, and you have all the settings there. But within the plugins area, it usually has a link to the plugin site and explains where to put it, right?
There it is.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to get too far into this specific plugin. Again, I'm happy to look at this later.
Okay, got it. I understand. I decided since we're
Yep, that's cool. Questions about this before I move on? Because specifically, I showed this, but I want to talk about some caching stuff tonight. That's the real stuff I wanted to get into on the agenda tonight. Yeah, I know. Yay! All right, everything making sense so far? I need a beer.
Thank you.
Makes better sense.
I have a question on themes.
Yep.
So I'm in DesktopServer, and I've got an existing site that's local, and I've got 3 themes on here. How do I get that whole list that you have?
You're on DesktopServer.
Yeah, I've got a live site local.
Okay.
I've got a theme, HD boilerplate. So all I have is that one, 2011 and 2010. How do we get the whole list that you had?
The whole list I have was actually WordPress.com. So there's a little over 200 themes that are installed on WordPress.com by default.
Okay.
You don't have the ability to add new themes on WordPress.com. So since you're self-hosted, it's only showing you the themes you've installed. There's another way to add themes and plugins, by the way. I've shown you sort of the quick and dirty way, but if I want to, part of the reason I was showing you the folder structure over here is because I've got my plugins and themes folders open. If I wanted to grab one of my Woo themes that I like, I don't know what any of these do anymore. Papercut, I know that one. So if I take, now that I've sort of unzipped this theme, I have a Woo developer package, by the way. It's a premium. It's premium themes. So I take my Papercut theme, I just drag it into themes, the themes folder over here on my site. When I refresh themes, there it is. Now it's available. So as long as those theme files are sitting in the right place, they're available. So what I did on the front end first, when I did the install themes and install plugins, it's downloading and sort of putting in WordPress knows how to put them in the right place for you, or you can do that manually. And I'm doing that on my local server, but this works through FTP as well.
So if you have an existing site and you're already on a server somewhere, and then you want to bring it to the desktop server, is it an import or is it like a drag and drop or FTP and all that?
There's no single answer to that question, but most likely hang on one second. So most likely what you can do is if you can FTP into the website, okay, which is what most people in this room are going to be doing, you're going to FTP in the website, create your local version of the server, make a blank folder, drag everything from FTP over to there. The only thing you're going to have to change at that point is your WP config file. So your database names are probably different on your web server than they are on your local machine. So you're going to have to mess with that a little bit. That should take care of it. Was that over anybody's head? Did that make sense? Okay. Yes, Priscilla.
I can tell you how to import it. I use ManageWP, and I know that it has an automatic import option for Backup Buddy, but I don't own Backup Buddy, and I don't have any reason to have ManageWP. And because he's still building the automatic importer from me, he's showing how to do it manually. So this has an import tool in it? Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so. And great now, for me, if you don't have either of those things, all you have to do is have a folder with all your files in it, give it a name, and you're going to zip it. But before you zip it, you want to put a database at the root level of your site and just have it say database.sql, read it in, and then you import it. And it works so good.
I'm not familiar with this feature yet, but what Priscilla's mentioning, the last part of what I was talking about is sort of how to get the website files onto your desktop. The second part is the database. So the way I work with the database is through it's getting loud next door. Is through PHPMyAdmin. Most hosts are going to provide you that, and that allows you to sort of take the website out and then import it into your local machine. It's not quite that simple, and I didn't want to get too technical, but you can't forget that part of it. So just because I bring the files over doesn't mean I have the content. The content lives in the database. Are there any other easier options for importing or things that I may have missed for the technical people in the room?
Steve,
Yep.
So the database is on your live server versus the database on your desktop server. It's moved from one place to the other, the name changes, or does it stay the same?
It doesn't have to change. It can be, I'm going to kill somebody, sorry. It can be the same name so that you keep it consistent. You just have to be aware of that, because otherwise your WP config file is not going to know where to look if it's got the wrong name.
Okay, so if you created it locally on your desktop server and you put it in the live server the first time, the database and everything goes with it. And you just have to go to WP config with the name?
No, it's not. It doesn't work exactly like that. The database part is not the automated part. So the files that we're talking about transferring are just the code. The database has got to be done through something like PHPMyAdmin. Okay. One of the things to note though is DesktopServer is just a GUI for Xampp. So
So if you need to get into the database side of desktop server, you'll open up your web browser and go to localhost. That's the Xampp interface. So this has a link for PHPMyAdmin, and if I wanted to look at the database and I really want to get geeky, I can look at the database here. So that's looking at MySQL on my local machine. Does that help? Okay. Yeah, PHPMyAdmin is going to come with most hosts. Cool? All right. Raise your hand if you know what caching is, and I don't mean CHCASHING.
One more beer.
I'm not even drunk yet. If you're not familiar with caching, C-A-C-H-E is fine, cache, okay? Get familiar with it. So a lot of the things that I deal with on a daily basis, I deal with sites that scale very large. I'm talking in the numbers of 500,000 page views a day. So caching in a site like that is critical. So what caching is going to do is really what you know is it lightens the load on your database. So WordPress sometimes gets a bad rap because it is a very database intensive application. So you've got PHP files, you've got your WordPress stuff, you've got your website sitting in PHP, you've got your MySQL database over here, and they talk to each other. Okay? If you don't set up any caching, every time a page loads over here, it makes a call to the database over here. And typically several calls to load a single page. You know, the more widgets you put on a page, the more calls to the database. So if you're widget happy or certain themes, you may be making 50 calls to the database to render one page on the site. That's a lot. MySQL is not an industrial strength program. It's used. It's an open. It's the one good standard open source database that's out there, but it was never really meant to be industrial strength.
Facebook uses it.
What's that?
Facebook uses it.
I'm not knocking it. It's used and it's well used and it does a lot and it can scale very big, but it doesn't work just by itself. Okay, not for the kind of scale that Facebook has. Facebook doesn't just have a single connection to MySQL and they're off and running. They have a server farm of MySQL databases. What's that? Gotcha. So again, I know this is a bold statement, but MySQL was never really intended for the kinds of stuff that it does. Is that a true statement, Shredder? Yeah. Either was PHP. Good statement. So the way to offset that load, what I just described, is through caching. And what caching does is it will make a simple explanation. It will take a snapshot of a page and store that as either a physical page or stored in memory somewhere. There's several different ways to cache. But basically store it for a certain period of time until it expires so that it doesn't have to hit the database every time it shows that page. Because programs like Apache or web servers are set to serve a lot of those pages very quickly, where MySQL is not really meant to do that kind of a thing. So that's what caching does for you, is it takes that snapshot, serves it for a period of time. Once it expires, it goes and renders it again. Okay? Does that make sense? Somebody go poke a hole in the bounce house. Come down on the kids. That happened at a 3-year-old birthday party with my son. Is when anybody ever been there when the bounce house comes down on the kids? That's always fun. It's a mad dash to get the kids out of the end. What's that? Yeah. So anyway, one of the caching plugins that I've spent years knocking is WP Supercache, but I actually gave it a try again recently. I'm now using it again. So there's two major plugins that are out there in the WordPress world: WP Supercache and W3 Total Cache. WP Supercache got an overhaul on the way that I didn't know about, and it actually is a pretty powerful. So that's what I'm going to show. I think it's got an easier. WP Supercache is what I'm going to show. W3 Total Cache used to be configurable. WP Super Cache. I don't think that's the case anymore. So it's a little bit more advanced for an advanced. They both do the same thing. But I'm going to show Super Cache and Super Cache tonight. Okay. So I'm going to go to my plugins. Click Add New. There it is. We'll install it. So at what point should you add a caching plugin to your website? We start to get a bunch of traffic. What's that? Thank you, Lauren. He ruined the punchline, but yes. Don't wait until your server goes down to do this. You're wrong. After you're done developing. That's it. You're absolutely right. When you deploy, when you're ready to launch, absolutely. When you're ready to launch, that's when WP Super Cache. Don't launch without. Don't wait until everybody and their mother is linked to their page. You have a lot of traffic. Your server will go down. Just disable it in your development environment. Yeah. So this is for your production environment. That's why I'm showing this one because WP Total Cache is a little bit more advanced, confusing than this one. This has got a better UI. Yes. We're going to find pros and cons to both. I just chose this one for tonight because I think it's easier to set up. Regardless of which one you use one of them. Right? Yeah. Use one of them. Find some cache solution. I encourage you to do this before it's too late. Because when it's too late, your site's going to be down. That's just what will happen. Yes.
So WP Engine doesn't like WP Super Cache or WP Cloud Cache.
They use WP Engine has its own caching solution, right? Custom caching solutions in place. These are only two WordPress plugins. There are hundreds of caching solutions out there. You may have heard of things like we've deployed things like Varnish and Squid, different server level caching that are much more advanced. So, but this is a good one to start with. At least this when you deploy your website. Okay. So I've added WP Super Cache. Under my settings panel, I now have a tab for WP Super Cache. I've got an error. That's okay. WP Super Cache will actually lead you through what you need to do to set it up. So what it's saying here is I have to have some sort of structure configured before I can install a caching plugin. So I'm just going to go over to permalinks, tab right above it, and say, does everybody know what this? Stop me again. This is supposed to be conversation. Stop me if this is over your head or stop explain this. Otherwise, I'm just keep moving. All right. So I'm going to set my post name. Save the changes. Go back to Super Cache. Now it's ready to go. Great. It's giving me a little bit of information of what it did, what it changed my WP file to allow for caching. Yes. Permalinks was right here under settings. So under settings, I first went to WP Super Cache, and it told me that I choose a permalink structure before I continue. So then I clicked on permalinks, I chose one. The one I like is and then I went back to WP Super Cache. Okay. So at this point, all I should have to do is turn caching on. Now I'm on my local, so that was actually pretty simple. Not all servers are created. So you may get other error messages that look very technical, but it'll give you very clear instructions on what you need to do. But just be aware of that. And the error message you're going to get are server specific. But all I need to do here is just turn this on, update the status, and now I've got caching working. That's really all you need to do to get caching going. Install the plugin, do what it tells you to do, turn it on. Okay? Now there's a lot more advanced settings, we'll go through a few of them, but that's really the basics of what you need to do to have caching. Okay, so what does caching do for me? So there's a couple of new folders that have shown up in my WordPress install. There's one called Advanced Cache, WP Cache Config. You don't need to worry about those. But the one folder that's there that's kind of interesting is this cache folder. Okay, so watch this. I'm going to open up Chrome. It added a new folder here called Super Cache. It's got my URL and it's got an index file in there. So what WP Super Cache is doing is actually creating sort of hard-coded files of each of the pages that get visited. Okay? I think the default in there is 10 minutes, so those files are going to expire every 10 minutes. Yep. We'll look at that in just a minute. Oops. Not sure it's not working. Oh, there we go. So now I've got a new folder in there called Hello World, and it's created a hard-coded file in there. Those have an expiry date to them, but that's what Super Cache is doing. So it's creating those files. So as long as those files are in existence, it's not the web server's not going to touch my database. So all of that pressure on my database is alleviated while those files exist. Yes?
Talk about expirations.
I'd be happy to, Woody. Thank you. So under the Advanced tab, let me get lost here for a second. There it is. There's a easy. So under Advanced, right there is the cache timeout. Okay, can you see that? So cache timeout is right now 3,600 seconds or an hour. So the default's an hour. Okay, if I wanted this to be 10 minutes instead, that would be 600 seconds. Okay, so change that. We'll update the status. Oh. There it is. So my cache time is now 600 seconds up there. Okay, so that means every 10 minutes the pages are going to expire. And as long as it finds a date that's expired, the next person to hit that page will hit the database, refresh the page, and that'll last for 10 minutes.
What do you recommend? What time?
Go ahead. Yeah. Were you going to answer that? Were you going to say?
I was going to say, you're going to talk about the log rewrite?
No, I'll let you talk about it in a second. So time recommendation is really dependent on your content. So if your content doesn't change that often, let's say you blog once a week, make it a day. You know, make your cache a day, or an hour is good. The default of an hour is probably good for most people. I work on news sites, so our cache expiry on those sites is 3 minutes. It's enough to alleviate pressure on the database, but they need that constant refresh. But the 3 minutes is important because if we're going to cut it down to 2, then we're going to add a lot more pressure on the database. So 3 was about a right balance for those heavy news sites. It really is content specific. It depends on how often your site changes. With Super Cache, it's built in, so if somebody makes a comment, it's automatically going to clear that page out of the cache and make a new one for you. So that comments will refresh the page almost immediately, or they will refresh the page immediately. Okay, and if you go in and change a post, that'll also clear out that cache page. So your edits will force the cache to refresh as well.
I was going to say, do make sure to enable log rewrite. Also, when you turn on caching, because
that's very geeky. So let's explain what that means.
Scroll to the top.
Thank you.
And then hit use log rewrite, the recommended setting.
Okay.
Because that's going to that's going to make it so the PHP doesn't handle your redirection, which is kind of the main thing that you gain by turning on caching. So you just say PHP.
Cool.
Don't you need to modify some files with it? Actually, No, it should add all of the stuff that's necessary to access automatically when you hit update.
Cool. Questions on caching?
What was that last thing again? I couldn't quite hear it.
So the checkbox I checked here was use mod rewrite. So it's actually marked there as recommended, but it's not checked by default. This one was checked by default, correct, Shredder? Correct. So Shredder's recommending that you wanted to use mod rewrite. Okay. If you don't know what it means, that's okay. Check the box. You're good. It's okay. All right.
Real quick, why again do you need this?
You need this for when your site becomes wildly popular.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
You got a lot of hits on it.
That's all relative.
Depends on what kind of service.
It's all. I'm getting there. It's all relative. Okay? If you put up a site and it's getting 5 hits a day, like the Zeek site, right? Then you probably don't need this. Okay?
It's like maybe 6.
Thank you, Mark. However, we have this in place in case somebody like a TechCrunch links to us. Because if you get that flood of traffic, you need to be ready for it. And a flood of traffic it's all relative. And a flood of traffic for you might be 100 hits in an hour, right? It's all relative. But what Eric and Lauren were saying is absolutely correct. You should do this on every site no matter what, because even if it's not wildly popular, your site and your pages might be server intensive relative to what server you're on. You could be on a GoDaddy server.
So download WP Supercache and then select the use mod.
Yeah, that's all I did. Download the plugin, activate it, follow the directions, check use mod rewrites, and then enable it. You're set.
Does it use CDN like W312?
Yes. So does everybody know what a CDN is? CDN is a content delivery network. So if you wanted to go even further and offset some of the load on your web server, you can push your images off onto a CDN. Like, what are some CDN examples? I don't want to talk about the biggies. What's that? CloudFront, back CDN. There's a lot of them out there. This gives you a really easy way to get your images onto this. To basically enable a CDN. Yes.
When I first discovered caching, I used this a long time ago, and it seems a lot of the files, because the site was, you had to follow a laundry list of stuff in order to uninstall it. So I said, as long as I do this, I'm going to do that. But I don't really like W312 cache.
It's all kind of cleaned up now. I do remember that. Everything sort of belongs in that. It goes in that cache folder. It used to be a little bit messier.
It does write to your config, but if that's the only thing it writes to, you can just.
But the only thing it did to my config file was this. It's just one line.
And it doesn't remove it for you, so you have to remove it.
Actually, where's?
The bigger thing to pay attention
There it is.
to your htaccess file.
It added that.
You don't change your htaccess file, everything will break.
Say that again.
So I'll repeat it. Go ahead. So.
Clearing that nowadays too.
What's that?
It clears that too. I'll make it easy to plug in.
Yeah, well, if you uninstall the
That's the other thing.
yes, you have to uninstall.
So that is a key. Okay, so what they're talking about is let's say I put in WP Supercache on Priscilla and I just don't like it. Okay, I want to get rid of it. Okay, what you don't want to do is this. Okay, this is not how you want to uninstall something in your WordPress folder. I'm manually going into my files, or I'm looking on my FTP server and I'm deleting it. Absolutely.
Okay.
There's a reason. Okay. The reason is this is because the way you probably want to do it is first is to deactivate it and then uninstall it through here, because there's routines that run in a lot of plugins that do that cleanup stuff that Priscilla's talking about. So by clicking deactivate, it's gonna redo my htaccess file. It's gonna get rid of the junk files in there for me, and now I can delete the plugin.
So that deactivation actually runs a script inside the WP Super Cache to clean up the stuff that it added. Not all plugins are created equally, and I say this at almost every meetup. Not all plugins are as nice as WP Super Cache. Some are created by somebody somewhere in Russia. That's the way to just, that's the routine you want to keep in mind when you're getting rid of plugins and themes.
So if you reactivate it, then will everything go back to your CDN, your mod squad, or whatever?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. No, this one actually got rid of all the database settings as well. So you want to be careful with that. Some plugins don't do a cleanup on your database, and you reactivate the plugin and it's still set up. I actually don't like that. If I deactivate the plugin, I want it to also undo whatever it did to my database. Get all that junk out of there.
If you throw all your images up to a CDN, say they're on Amazon or something, and then you deactivate the plugin, your images stay. What happens?
Your images are still over on the CDN, but they're no longer being called. So your code changed, so it's calling all the local stuff. So you at that point you need to go over to your CDN and wipe out. Just wipe it. It depends on your CDN. Not all CDNs are completely equally. So if you don't have local copies and they're only on your CDN, you're going to have to bring them over. Is that true? Is that?
I'm sorry.
Please pay attention. Not all CDNs are created equally. So if you use a CDN that basically becomes the origin server, the only place it's got the once you deactivate the CDN, you have to bring it back over to the These plugins keep a local copy and then push or the CDN pulls from the
plugin out.
Gotcha. So you should be okay. Get it. I say that with not all CDNs.
Always has spent $1,000 here just to their finding about what they have. You not have a non-family.
Wait, let me undo the double negative.
And one of your better ideas, better ideas that actually all back to the side of that street.
Okay. Good tips. This all makes sense? Yes.
I want to pull inspiration. If you have a site that has forums, interactions, does that impact your inspiration time?
Well, with WP passage, it constantly makes a comment. It's going to expire that file. So that it refreshes the next time. So comments force a refresh. Same thing with editing a post. It forces a refresh on purpose because you want that.
Right.
Thank you. Yes.
Under what circumstances do you pay a performance price with cache?
Under what circumstances do you pay performance price?
With this.
I actually think you gain performance with the caching. You're going to gain a lot of performance, especially if you're talking about sites with a lot of traffic. Apache serves a lot faster than MySQL, so you want your files being served from a web server and not be database reliant. I can't think of any time that you actually lose performance.
You're absolutely sure on this space. Yeah. Or I guess if you have any memory contention because of that.
Shredder?
No, Apache is always going to be making a connection to serve some file. This just lets it serve the pages directly without going through PHP or MySQL.
Because you're creating, it's an HTML file.
Right. Yeah.
You're not running the PHP engine. You're not running the PHP engine. You're not making MySQL call.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a straight HTML file and images. Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because I know
we will.
Eric will know, especially. But if you have no other reason to improve your caching, if you get a better page load score, like a page speed, doesn't that improve your SEO? So
I'm not an SEO expert, but is that yes, Eric?
Thank you.
Your roll time should be a second and a half or less. And I will tell you most WordPress pages are loading in 7 to 10 seconds. So if you cache it, you're getting much closer to 1.5 seconds.
If you're currently experiencing slowdowns on your website and you don't have this will probably solve that for you.
Any restrictions to what server you're using?
What server you're using?
Restrictions about the server. Radio server space and
This is
is all, I mean, any flavor of Linux is this isn't server specific. This is your
Service specific, like Bluehost or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, WP Engine doesn't like it.
So Bob says WP Engine doesn't like it, but they have their own caching solution already in place for you. So you're not gonna install this on WP Engine anyway. But as far as Bluehost, HostGator, DreamHost, this runs just fine. Yeah. The only thing you're gonna need is on some configurations in those error messages I showed you for when they give you the information you need to set up your host, to set up your server. They may ask you to sort of go into the terminal and set permissions. So you're going to need root access for some of the things that it requires. More questions on this? Did I miss anything? Who's going to do this?
I did it while you were talking about it.
Good. Good.
On another site.
Good. Now I will go visit your websites.
Wouldn't you say this is more for high traffic websites?
I would not.
Really?
I would not. It's for any traffic.
Yeah. All right.
Especially if you're on an $8 a month hosting plan.
Any shared hosting.
Any share.
Yeah. Well,
But why?
well, because a lot of it has to do with PHP connections. So, that's probably your biggest issue of what caching prevents, is most shared server environments only allow a certain number of PHP connections from your shared hosting account. And so if it's trying to pull multiple pages and run multiple instances of PHP to run and make pages on people's browser, you're going to encounter that pretty quickly, unless you're going to go over your RAM limits or you're going to have too many PHP installations. What's even with VPS? What's DreamHost's? Is it 10? 10 instances of PHP running?
I think it changes depending on how much RAM you have. It auto scales.
Okay.
And what happens if I take
It's everything stops working. Everything stops. And so what this is doing is making sure you don't have to load PHP, which is thus lowering the RAM. There's another thing too. Even if you have a VPS or a virtual private server, no acronyms.
No, this is not an acronym.
Even if you have a VPS or you have a dedicated server, it's going to lower your RAM requirements because you're not going to be calling PHP every 2.5 seconds to try to run it to load the page. This is one of those everyone should do this sorts of things. Whether you have two people coming to your site, because then you're probably on a shared hosting environment, or 2,000, or 500,000.
And your two visitor website could also end up becoming, the 10,000 visitor website, because it gets shows up on some website. Yeah, somebody starts linking to your site, you're too late. You should have already had this all set up.
Yep. So the super cache set expires headers and everything else, or is it totally independent on the index that HTML? One of the ways to look at the front end is if you look at the source code. I'm logged into the site, so I'm not seeing it.
I'll just take every word of it.
Yeah. Yep. That was one of my last points. If you are logged in, you're typically not seeing cache. So it actually is smart enough to know you're a logged in user. You're not going to see cache pages. So if you go make changes, you'll see the pages. If you're not, you'll see actually you're running PHP at that point.
So it's not going to ask you to purge it all the time.
No. You actually should. If you're logged in, you should never have to purge it. Okay? You should only purge it if you got some mistake up there that and your cache is there for an hour and you don't want people to see it. That's the one time you should purge your cache. And purging is actually really easy. It's right there. So keep in mind though. There we go. I'm way behind here. So I'm not sure what's going on. I blame the kids next door.
Jason's having it.
It is Jason. Thanks, Jason. So it's right here. It's this button, delete cache. So, but keep in mind, delete cache deletes your entire cache folder. So what that's going to, the effect it's going to have is if you have a lot of regular traffic and consistent traffic, you're going to see a blip of a slowdown because it's got to rebuild all that those cache files really quickly. So I'd be very careful with that button.
So if somebody's looking at your site, they refresh their browser, that doesn't refresh the cache.
No.
It's just when you.
Only if it's on the page when it's expired. So every time they get to a URL that's past the expiry date, that's gonna refresh the cache. Yeah.
Is it off topic?
Minify? Yeah. No, I don't think that's off topic at all.
I don't understand. Yes, I know it slows everything down.
Does anybody know where the minify feature is inside of WP Super Cache? Is it W3 Total Cache?
Yeah,
Total Cache has it.
Okay, W3 Total Cache has it. Explain what a minifier is, because I'm tired of talking.
It basically compresses white space and it removes unnecessary bytes and bits of information from files so they transfer faster.
Like JavaScript files, CSS files.
Yeah, it's like a dive for your file.
Do you use it? Do you use W3 Total Cache on any of your sites?
I do.
Do you use Minify?
I do not.
Does it slow it down? Or?
No. I minify CSS, but I do not minify JavaScript because generally speaking, JavaScript is a loose scripting language, so you do not have to use semicolons at the end of, this is more technical, but you don't have to use a semicolon at the end of the line to finish the line. And if you don't, when you minify, the lines run together and it will break all the JavaScript on your site. So
that's pretty common. We find mine.
So they also, the minifying things, they also minify HTML, so remove comments or remove space, like everything that's unnecessary, it will take out and it will streamline your pages.
I don't minify anything.
Yeah.
The CSS makes sense though.
CSS and HTML I usually do, but JavaScript I never do.
But you can minify yourself. Like just go through and clean out all the extra spaces.
The problem with that though is it makes it impossible to find something down the road. I mean, if you comment, especially if you're doing multi-developer.
But we're going to save that for developer day.
I'm going to go back to, I know Total Cache, which is what I use for most of my projects. When the expiration time comes up, it doesn't expire the whole site at once, it expires every page from the time it was created. That's right. So does that work with this too? So
yeah, you don't
expire
page by page.
It'll expire from the time that page is created.
That's
so
correct.
It's always in constant.
Each page has its own expiry date, expiry time.
So it does. Cool.
Okay. So if I add W3 Total Cache and WP Super Cache at the same time, I get double the caching.
Okay, question.
That was a joke. Don't do that. just like Alex said, if you put 2 SEO plugins, you get double the SEO. Don't do that either.
What's the relationship between cache on your browser and cache in WordPress?
It has to do with the headers. That's the business with the
server caching versus browser caching. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't think I'm hearing what you're asking. I think there really isn't WordPress caching. That's not. This is all browser level stuff.
They're not. Is browser caching the same as what we're talking about?
I'm sorry. Browser caching, that's not
Totally
what this
different.
is. No, this is all server caching.
Okay.
Yeah, this is caching files on the server to be served out.
Okay.
Browser caching is different.
Okay.
Browser caching is whatever you visited.
All
If
right.
it only grabs stuff as it needs it.
It's local. Okay.
Yeah, that's specific to you.
All right.
Sorry, I didn't understand that first.
You can force severe browser caching. There were options to do that within the super cache network. But that's some of the advanced stuff. And that's a web server config thing.
Cool. Any other questions before we move on? So it came up a couple of times here. We're talking about servers, we're talking about hosting, shared hosting, VPS. which is a great segue for what Brandon's going to talk about. You going to bring your machine? All right, cool. So Brandon's going to talk a little bit about hosting because it's been talked about quite a bit on our Facebook group. So I'll let him get set up here. And I get to take a break. I will let you introduce yourself, sir. You're welcome. Brandon Dove.
Oh, that's tiny. Jason, is there a size that it has to be, or?
No.
Okay, sweet. Bigger. Okay. It's gonna work, I swear. Okay, awesome. Okay.
What if we do a different frequency?
Oh yeah, that's freaky, isn't it? Sorry, hold on.
Try display preference.
Oh, it's still wiggly, isn't it?
That's better, actually.
No, absolutely.
Is this? Yeah, right here, it's kind of weird.
Display preferences will give you more options.
Whatever.
No, it's not Jason. I think this is something else. All right, let's see here.
You may change the refresh rate to 59.
I don't have that option. Oh, sorry, Jason. I think I just screwed you up.
You're good, dude.
I'm good? Okay. Is that works okay, right?
Cool.
Okay, all right. So, let's see what we can do here. Maybe it'll let me. Okay. So I am Brandon Dove, and I am a WordPress developer for PixelJar. Jeffrey, my partner, and I run the WordCamp Orange County event we just had. And yeah, that's me basically. We kind of, in the last couple of weeks, we've been having a lot of discussion on the Facebook group about like how to choose hosting, like what kinds of hosting is good and bad, and who would you choose or whatever. And so we wanted to kind of throw together some stuff that hopefully will help you make an educated decision. And I'm hoping actually that this will be more interactive too, that you guys will have your own opinions that can contribute to this. I by no means know everything about hosting, but I've gone through hosts like I bet nobody has. So I do know what not to choose. So how to choose a WordPress host. Oh, by the way, these slides are here. If you're interested later, you can look at them if I go too fast or whatever. So you can copy that out real quick, and then you can see it later. Did everybody get that? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, so there's lots of different kinds of hosting. Pretty much WordPress will run on just about anything these days. You can do shared hosting, VPS, dedicated, cloud, managed hosting, and if you're really adventurous, you can host your own rack. So just to go through them real quick, shared hosting is sort of a you get what you pay for type of thing. You have very little resources, you're sharing file systems. A lot of times you hear somebody got hacked over here, so I got hacked over here. If somebody gets access to a file system, they can potentially traverse across file systems, things like that, if they have the right access. It's by far, well, besides free, the cheapest hosting you can get out there. And it's not a bad place to start, right? So if you want to have your own URL, you don't want to host on WordPress.com, this is a good place to start. There's lots and lots and lots of different hosts. A couple that we talk about a lot here are DreamHost. Obviously, Shredder's in the house, so it's always nice to see a face of somebody you're hosting. Bluehost, a lot of people talk about. HostGator. Media Temple is another one that does shared hosting, and we won't go the last one. I personally, of these four that I've mentioned, I've used Media Temple, and I hate it. I know people who love Media Temple, and things go wrong and they go down, and I have not had good experience with these. I have heard of many people with the first three that really love them. So I would encourage you at this level. The range of price is anywhere from like $2 to $3 a month to $8 to $10 a month, something in that range. You can't really go wrong. If you try it out for 3 months, $30, you're not out. You haven't broken into the piggy bank yet. So try them out. Talk to people. That's going to be your best bet, is to get people who know the host specifically, or get people who know sort of how the specific host handles certain things, so they can help you troubleshoot as things come up. The next sort of level up from that is a VPS, virtual private server. Yes?
So on the shared hosting, have you actually ever found where they have some semblance of knowledge about WordPress as part of their package, or as part of the technical support teams of those?
So generally speaking, when you sign up for a shared hosting package, anything in the world, any sort of software package, PHP, generally speaking, will run on a shared hosting server. So it's very hard to find a company that has specific WordPress knowledge. One of the reasons I put DreamHost at the top is because they employ people who work on WordPress. And so you have a better support system there for those kind of issues. Yes?
I've been on GoDaddy for a number of years, and I just had a problem. I don't know why I find it. So when would I expect that problem to?
Any day now, I don't know. Absolutely no, and I think it's fair to say that you could potentially always be on GoDaddy and never have a problem. I think the problem with GoDaddy is they're trying to do so many things that it's hard to do one thing awesome, right? It's hard to do really great. Yeah. Sorry, what? Oh, sorry. So I think that's the, from a developer's perspective, like I have to be able to count on my host to do what to be up all the time for my clients. And I have had terrible experiences with them. So from personal and sort of, community experience.
Is it volume based? Because I have no volume. Would it be volume based?
I think the biggest problem is GoDaddy is a ginormous target. They host a ton of websites, right, for very, very small amounts of money. So the potential for a hacker to go to GoDaddy and infect a ton of people is much greater than a smaller host that is focused more on their infrastructure rather than selling domain names and selling X, Y, and Z and upselling all this other stuff. Like, I feel more secure in knowing that my host is worried about my website, the server's running rather than all this other stuff. So again, I would personally not host on GoDaddy, but that's because I've just had bad experience with them in the past.
You may also find material that fits in your support team relative to some of the other organizations, I would say. That's almost one of the biggest factors in all these things.
I think that's just right. If you're dealing with a shared hosting site with not a lot of users and your support tickets are being answered in a timely manner, great.
I was running on the Windows server. I switched to WordPress because they couldn't handle WordPress on Windows. And I had a real support problem for about a day.
Okay.
Once I switched over, it didn't make it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody's experience is definitely going to be different, and maybe you're the lucky one, I don't know. But I've just heard horror stories of people on GoDaddy. Yes?
So let's say GoDaddy's hosting your WordPress site and you want to move over to HostGator. Is that going to be like hugely complicated to do?
Generally speaking, as long as you're not like transferring domain names, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. You should be able to make a backup of your site, put it on the new server, and turn it back on, and hooray, it's up. What's that? Who? What? Sorry. HostGator will? Okay. So host.
I mean, I have HostGator now, and I just moved to them from.
Yeah, Bluehost is the same thing. They'll do it for you.
Okay. Yeah. So I think a lot of hosting companies will try to get your business by offering to move your site for you. You know, I guess it's a for me, like I personally do it myself because like I don't know what everybody else can do or troubleshoot, but I think those services are great because they do oftentimes outsource them to people who specialize in moving sites, and it usually works out pretty well. Yeah. Any other questions on shared hosting? Yeah.
That's totally different than shared IP and dedicated IP.
Yes, those are different things. Yeah.
Is moving email usually pretty straightforward if somebody has 3-4 email addresses with their current host?
Moving email is probably the most painful thing about moving hosting. Unless, and this is we recommend our clients generally use like Google Apps or something like that, or a third-party email service, because tying your email to your host can often be problematic, especially if your site goes down and there's no remediation and you have to move everything. Suddenly now you have to move your email and your website. You've got twice as much work to do. And if you're an organization of 100 people, that's going to suck in generic terms. Yes?
Something's actually posted this around today. We more out to because of what they run previously. But I don't know about Bluehost and Greenhost. I haven't used some of those that are used a lot, and a few others. Most of them, other than Media Temple, use cPanel, the management project. They use less than Media Temple. If you're going from a cPanel to a cPanel backend,
yes,
you transfer email, they can do it automatically.
So
whatever you're on, as long as you stick with something that's using it, which probably like 90% are using cPanel, then it's not hard.
Right.
That's
I
that's
just
a
went
great
to this
point.
because I had GoDaddy and they weren't using cPanel.
Yeah.
Disaster.
Yeah.
Did you have trouble with your email?
What he's saying is, if you take it, if you're using cPanel and you're going to a cPanel host, there's a backup function in cPanel where you can take a complete export of the entire cPanel instance, and as long as you're using pretty similar features of cPanel, you can basically import it on the other side, and all your emails and everything will be configured exactly as it was on your other server. So we'll take over your subdomains and your emails and.
But you can still have issues with the client side not having pop or IMAP.
Yeah.
And they not being able to also lose all the mail.
Right.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay. Okay. So, like I said, the next level up is a VPS or virtual private server, and what you're gaining in this is a more private environment. You essentially have what equates to a computer instance. You have a full file system that you can access. You have a lot more privileges than you would in shared. A lot of times they'll give you SSH access, where some shared you will not. You'll get the sort of all of the management problems of moving to a sort of more dedicated environment without all of the control. You may not have root access to install programs, but if you contact support, they'll be able to install things for you or whatever as you need it. So you can customize your server. Like for example, if your server doesn't come with a certain caching, like a memcached or APC, those are sort of more technical things. But when you're using something like W3 Total Cache, you can tie into server level caching things that will help increase the performance even more than just using the plugin itself. So you can have the host add those things to your account without affecting everybody else who's using the same resources as you. So the reason why it's called a virtual private server is because it's all run through virtualization. So one computer is potentially hosting several sites, but they're sort of segmented off in their own little world. They don't have the shared access like you would in a shared server. And you generally have more resources at your, available to you so that you can run a potentially bigger website. You start getting into this, when you choose a VPS, you sort of start having to deal with things like, how much RAM do I want? How much hard drive space do I want? Those kind of things that are going to play into how expensive your VPS is. I mean, these things could go from somewhere around $20 to $30 to anywhere from like $50 to $75 a month. So it's definitely a price hike at that point, but you do get a lot from having a VPS. Here's a couple other ones. A lot of times what you'll find is companies who offer shared generally offer a VPS solution as well. So if you're used to, say, DreamHost, you can probably pretty easily have them upgrade you to a VPS account, right? Without having to go and manually upgrade yourself or move all your files yourself. They'll be able to facilitate that for you. So DreamHost and HostGator both offer a VPS solution, as well as Media Temple actually. They call it something else, but it's basically the same thing. And then two other players come in here, VPS.net and Linode, that I've sort of had experience with a little bit. And all of them work basically the same way. I mean, Linode's a little more flexible in that you can sort of create ones as you go. And same with VPS.net, I think. But any of these will get you this new sort of private area for your own files. Is there any questions on VPS stuff? Yes?
What's the biggest advantage? Is the biggest advantage of the VPS to increase, to boost the server level caching?
No, not necessarily caching. I would say you have more resources devoted to your server than a shared environment where if you're on a server that has 100 clients, you're sharing those equally. Whereas with the VPS, there's going to be far fewer people running on a single server, and you'll have dedicated resources of, say, like 1 gigabyte or 2 gigabytes of RAM, something like that. You also have security implications, so that it's supposed to be more secure because it's all, essentially nobody outside of that file system has access to it. So that's definitely a big advantage right there.
Do you know how many people are on the box?
If you know the right people, I'm sure you could ask the right question. I don't think it's something a host would say, well, there's 4 guys on this one and 2 on this one. Which one do you want? It's more of like, this one's available, this is what you get. Yeah.
If you start out on the shared hosting, at what point it's recommended to move to a virtual file?
I think as far as traffic goes, I think you're going to notice at a certain point that shared's just not going to work for you. I wouldn't say there's a round number. I don't know. There's not. Yeah. I mean, if you have a really media heavy site, you're going to want to upgrade far sooner than if you have a text-based site, right? I mean, it really depends on the amount of traffic and how spiky it is too.
It also depends on whether you make good money. If you make good money, just move the whole
Yeah. Well, if you make good money, you just bypass all these levels and just go manage. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, a cool thing about VPSs too is that most of them will let you change your resources in real time.
Yeah.
So if you find that you have a particularly rough month traffic-wise, or good month traffic-wise,
right,
then you can bring up your resources, the amount of RAM that you need just for a short amount of time, and then bring it down and save yourself some money long term.
Yes.
Thanks. Probably on the shared hosting, you can focus a lot on your own site and what my traffic is and it's going to handle it. But your real limitation is that you don't know who else is on there. On most shared hosts, like if you're on HostGator, if you do a reverse IP lookup to see who else is on that server, you're going to find there's like hundreds of sites on that same server. So what they're running, what they're doing, how much traffic they're getting, that's going to be what dictates how your performance. And you can get a shared server that runs wonderful for you, and there's areas that you want to look a lot running all the time. It really just depends on who else is on there.
I think to a certain extent, right?
To a certain extent. I I mean, if they're managing resources properly on their servers, then that shouldn't happen. I mean, there should be resource limits on each of the users that keep that from happening in most cases.
They do, yeah, but at least with HostGator, I can't speak to the others. When what it'll do is when something starts spiking over what it should be, it'll lock down that particular user and stuff. Like, I had a client who had to update something in a database that I was doing in a very intensive way, and I knew it would be, and I ran it late, and I literally shut down shared server for them. They cut us off at a certain point, but I was locking the whole thing down. So,
yeah, I think that definitely is going to come into play. I mean, you're in an environment where everything is literally shared. You know, so things like that will definitely happen on shared. Yes?
I ran into a situation of shared server, we used a term called throttling, and they shut the site down when they needed to.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's kind of one of those you get what you pay for things. So, I mean, if it's mission critical, you're not going to want to spend $2 a month on it. You know, it's just, I see shared hosting as a way to get yourself going forward, not the destination at all. I mean, if you're building a site to live on shared hosting, then you should probably just not do that. It's not worth your time, you know. Yeah.
There's one thing, some parts a lot of people don't realize is if you're planning to send emails out with mail lists and stuff, almost all of them will have an hourly outbound limit, usually something like 300 emails. So a lot of people set their site up and they get their list of one and they want to use whatever they're using as WordPress or something to send it out. And they can't understand why emails aren't showing for 8 hours.
Yeah.
They are a problem with that. So if you do a share or something and you plan to email, you definitely want to use a service like constant contact with WhatsApp or something.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think as you get more and more expensive, what you're going to find is that limits sort of disappear more and more. And as you get to dedicated, you know, if you have a bare box, obviously the limits are on basically whatever the hardware can handle. It's not a hosting consideration at that point. So I would say VPS, sort of bring it back here, VPS is a step up from shared, but you still are sharing resources with potentially a couple other, or possibly more other hosts across machines probably. Yes?
You know how for shared hosting on HostGator you can get a business development site and you can host as many sites as you want. So on shared, is it per domain or you can host as many sites as you want?
It really depends on the host. You can find hosts that will let you host one domain, one website for your entire host, or you can find some that will let you host as many domains as you want to. And
you could be on a box that has someone has 300 sites and you have one.
I think to Mike's comment earlier was like the host is going to recognize that and start like segmenting off people. I'm not a host, but I'm pretty sure they have the ability to go, okay, this guy probably needs to be over here, and reallocate resources that way. So yeah, I mean, chances are what's going to happen is they're going to limit that person specifically to if you sign up for a shared hosting account that has, you know, suddenly you have 30 sites on, you're going to be sharing all of your shared resources amongst 30 sites. So each one of those is going to be like significantly more crappy, like as you know, add sites or whatever. So the next step up is cloud. The next step is sort of mixed, I think, for me. I kind of go between cloud and dedicated as sort of your next step from here. So cloud hosting is basically something like a Rackspace or an Amazon type thing. You have basically, how do you explain cloud? It's just like there's servers like all over the place, right? And it's in a giant data center, and all the resources are spread out amongst lots of different machines, and you basically have access to much more computing power because your server load is spread out amongst tons and tons of computers that are somewhere in the mythical clouds. At this point, you are basically in a dedicated situation where you have full access to do whatever you want with your server. And a lot of times you'll find that they come pre-configured, but a lot of times you'll also find that they're completely bare Linux when you pick them up. So at that point, you're going to start having to deal with server management issues, you're gonna have to pay for those costs. No one's gonna pay for those for you. You basically have to choose a size of your server, whatever that means. It changes based on what host you're at, but you'll hear terms like micro, small, mini, large, medium. I mean, it basically is giving you a set amount of resources that you have that are spread across all these servers. But the nice thing about cloud hosting is you can instantly spin up another instance whenever you need it. If for whatever reason your server is spiking because you got dug or whatever, you can say, okay, I need 50 more servers or whatever. Now that's what you would say in theory. Doing that with a WordPress site is not that easy. You can't just go and suddenly you've got 50 servers running your one WordPress site. It doesn't work like that. You need to have an infrastructure in place, which again is going to cost you money to set up. And I find the pricing for cloud hosting insanely weird. Like, it's like we all went back to the 90s and we're all paying for cell phones again. And it's like you're paying like 1.5 cents per hour. I don't know what that means, but I want my server on all the time, so why can't we just compute it out to a month? Like, I don't know why. But it just, like, I find that what happens is, you know, the more resources you throw at it, which is sort of the cloud mentality, is like, it's not working, throw more servers at it, you know? That exponentially grows in price. We've had people pay multiple thousands of dollars a month for cloud hosting because throwing servers at it is how you solve the problem when you have cloud hosting. So lots and lots of resources, like infinite cosmic power, but it's gonna really affect your pocketbook really quickly. And I think beyond that, having to then manage your server, unless you have an IT person in-house or a developer in-house that knows what they're doing, it's going to be a management nightmare. That's been our experience, and we like to think we know what we're doing. So unless you're really, really confident in your server management skills, like, this is a tough route to get to. This would be when you would go to this level or a dedicated level when you have a significant amount of users and you are making money like solely from your website. Like, I wouldn't do this because you want a corporate site, right? That's not what you do about cloud hosting. Let's see. Yeah. So the two places I mentioned are Amazon and Rackspace. Those are, I would say, the main players in the cloud space, unless anybody else has anything to say about that. But it's really, once you get here, you're configuring servers, you're building your server to what you need, and you're going to get better performance because you're building it specifically for what you need. So, is anybody cloud hosting right now?
We do a little bit of cloud hosting. Basically, you can think of it as if you have a server in-house and you don't want to deal with having the hardware in the data center and all that, and you can outsource it to a cloud vendor. But you still need, like you said, all the skills that you would need for a data center. You have to have a network engineer in the shop. You have server managers and stuff. So you can't just say, I want to build a website and put it on my shop.
Yeah.
And it is costly. Typically, large organizations and government's starting to use it, but large organizations, they're seeing a lot of cost effectiveness to it because they spend a lot of money on building their own infrastructure. But for a small website type of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, at this point, you're in the multiple millions of users per month, probably, or visits per month. And like I said, you're making your money like off of your website. That's why you're going to want to go this route.
You can also hire Rackspace to do a full management of everything, but it's busy.
Yeah, no, we're getting there. But yeah, you're totally right. I mean, there's like one of the top tier levels is managed hosting, which we'll talk about. but Rackspace does offer that, and it's like contracting out an IT guy essentially to set up the infrastructure for you.
It's only $100 a month.
Yeah, you can pay him.
What?
And then,
I'll pay $100.
okay, so if you go dedicated, again, this is sort of the same level I feel like as cloud, except for it's harder to scale if you're going to scale. You have something that you can, basically somebody is holding on to and going, this specific box, this one's yours. You have full access to this box. You have root access, you're installing whatever you want to install, but you break it, you bought it. You have the responsibility of fixing it. You have the responsibility of managing it. If a new version of Linux comes out, guess who gets to upgrade?
It probably depends on the host though, because I know that at least with DreamHost you can decide, you have to decide if you want to manage it.
But it's, okay, so maybe a DreamHost, like in companies that we've worked with in the past, they won't upgrade it unless you ask them, and then they'll charge you to upgrade it. Yeah.
That's kind of evil.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah.
The
So
idea of being dedicated, it says it's yours.
Yeah. Right. You have you basically say, I want 4 gigs of RAM, I want this much hard drive space. This you configure the box as you need to, and you have full access to all that. Whatever you want.
It just happens to be sitting in some.
Right. It's not in the cloud. It's a physical box that you can touch and hold, and you're bound by the limits of that box though. Whereas the cloud, you could say, I need, instead of a small instance, now I need a double extra large instance or whatever.
Yeah, my son worked for a company that went from 25,000 constantly users up to 500,000.
Yeah, you probably need to upgrade.
Yeah, stepping up, and it was all dedicated servers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the difference here between cloud and dedicated is that, instead of using, spreading your load across 500 servers, you have 1 or 2 boxes, physically the size just gets bigger, and you're still limited to that same physical dimension of the server. In our experience, it's been expensive to host and more expensive to manage. You're talking about multiple hundreds of dollars per month, and the hours that you put into configuring and managing the server. So that's again same as cloud. This is you're making your money off your website. Here are a couple dedicated providers. DreamHost rounding out their offering with dedicated. HostGator and Media Temple also offer variants of dedicated things. So there's a couple links there. And then what we've sort of grown into for our clients is this managed WordPress idea where there's somebody who you're basically contracting or whatever to manage the server and WordPress itself. So at this point, you don't really need to know how it's working. It's just working. That's just all you have to worry about. You don't have to get the phone call at 9 o'clock on Sunday, going, dude, our server's down, fix it. Somebody's already taken care of that. If there's a problem, they're telling you there's a problem and they're going to fix it. It's not you going, oh, my website's down. I wonder why. They handle all that kind of stuff for you. It can be expensive to host, but the good thing is that management's already included in the price. So whatever, usually this is a contract basis type thing. The 2 big providers, or 3 I guess, actually there's one more Rackspace in there too, but WP Engine and Pagely are the 2, I would say, front runners in WordPress hosting. Synthesis by Genesis or StudioPress is they just kind of opened up their system, so they're not just Genesis hosting anymore. So I would say these are the 3 big community ones. Rackspace I feel is sort of on the outside because they still manage any sort of servers, not just WordPress. But you can contract Rackspace to do a scalable WordPress website. It is ridiculously expensive. When we were considering moving from a host I will not mention to WP Engine, we got quotes from different people, Rackspace included, and Rackspace was somewhere around $3,000 a month to manage and set up the infrastructure and just keep it going on an ongoing basis. I know, Jason, you guys looked at Rackspace for a while too before going to WP Engine.
Yeah, it was right around $4,000 for the Rackspace setup, and WP Engine was considerably less, and there was less headache.
Right. Of these three, my favorite is WP Engine, just because I've worked with them. I've heard good and bad things about Pagely, so I can't really comment from personal experience, but I think either of them are good choices. WP Engine actually does shared, and it's not exactly shared on VPS or whatever, but they do smaller plans based on how many page views you get, so you can start anywhere from like $29, and the custom level starts at like $400 a month, and it grows from there. Pagely has similar offerings where they have, you know, sort of a shared competition project or product, which is cheap, but it takes advantage of all their network infrastructure that they have in place, and it grows from there. Synthesis is actually new to me. I heard somebody mention it the other day on the Facebook group. I think it was Priscilla, if I'm not mistaken. No, it wasn't you. It was somebody, I don't know who it was. I'm a fan of Genesis, so it can't be that bad. So those are sort of the three ones in here. Is anybody else doing managed hosting, managed WordPress hosting? Besides you? Who's on shared hosting in here? And VPS? And dedicated or cloud? You? Okay. And managed WordPress hosting? There's a couple. Okay. So that's not too bad. Actually, how many of you are thinking that it's a good time to like maybe switch, or like you're getting to your peak, or I think it really comes down to a couple questions for me, anyways, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think too. But it comes down to like, how badly do I need my site up all the time, and how much am I willing to spend for that? Right, and I think the biggest jump is from shared to VPS, because coming from shared, you're used to like no configuration, like just plug and play, and it's super cheap, like not a lot of commitment really on your part. But once you get to VPS, like you have to start thinking about those management things, thinking about how your server is set up and things like that, which can seem really daunting. The last level is like hosting your own box in a data center. And unless you like really know what you're doing, like don't do it. Like, I mean, seriously, like unless you're really hosting a corporate site that, I mean, not a corporate site, but like corporate infrastructure application, like whatever, like you don't want to do that. So.
Mostly, like if you have a mass game product.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a network infrastructure that you need to have up that's custom built, sure, a data center makes perfect sense. You know, it really is like you're putting the pieces together as you need them. You have a utility box, you have a database box, you have an email box. Like, it's because you have this super custom setup that like you can't get anywhere else, essentially. Like, you have to go in there and screw in the servers, buy the servers yourself, and install the OS and command line in.
Good times.
Yeah, been there, done that. Yes?
Just a couple observations, because I spent a lot of time with my clients managing a 14,000 $40,000 a month rack space dedicated hosting contract.
Okay.
So part of that comparison too includes all the other infrastructure elements that go with it.
Yes.
Say F5 load balancer infrastructure and dedicated firewall infrastructure and other components that go along those lines. Some of which maybe require an intrusion detection system or other components. So those can get very expensive. Indeed, I'd say of $14,000 we spend, like 5 of that is just security infrastructure elements. And that's going to really feed into one of the third element of the stool you talked about, which was uptime and kind of price consideration.
Yes.
Or, these are cited a lot, but also just question of security and security infrastructure. So for example, if you have a shopping cart application, you got PCI compliance issues you need to deal with, and that obviously raises all sorts of other questions that you need to contend with too.
Absolutely.
For your infrastructure.
Absolutely.
And then I guess the other observation I make too is the nice thing about say a VPS where you then use a content delivery network like S3 or something from Amazon, is you get some of the greatest elements, and then you do caching, as we talked about tonight, is you get the best mix of everything. Because now you offload as much as possible, get the huge scalability, the cloud benefit at a very small marginal cost, and still have your VPS or even shared hosting kind of deals and that stuff.
Absolutely. I think a CDN isn't something I really covered, but I think at any one of those levels, you're going to want to use something like a CDN, especially if you're a media-heavy site, you have lots of big images, things like that. It's going to be far less expensive to send those out over Amazon or Cloudflare or Mac CDN or whatever they are, than trying to fit that within your bandwidth limits of a shared hosting. I mean, that's another consideration too, is like, do you have the bandwidth limits you need? If you're having even a small amount of traffic but a high media site, you've got bandwidth problems immediately with a shared hosting, because you only have 100 gigs of transfer or something like that, and it's gonna run out of space and time. Yeah, definitely. I think a CDN is a good mention, and I think there's also combinations of some of these that work well. Like they're just not standard installations where. I've seen people run WordPress and dump the static site to Amazon, so that it's completely static running on Amazon as a static site, and that will never go down because it's Amazon. But this is sort of like, those are more configuration type things. So before I finish, I want to say thank you to some people who are in the Facebook group. We're actually, as PixelJar right now, we're trying to get a $250,000 grant. And in order to qualify for that grant, we had to raise 250 votes. And a lot of people in this room have helped us get there. We're almost there, I swear, we are so close.
All right.
We need like about 30 or 40 more votes to get there. If you feel like my presentation was valuable, I'm going to pitch myself for you right now. This is the grant that we're getting, or we're trying to get. I think we have a pretty good chance at getting it because of what we do in the WordPress community. And we have a compelling story, I think, to tell. But if you feel so compelled, go and visit this link and vote for PixelJar. And I'm hoping by the end of the week, which is our cutoff time, that we'll have our 250 votes and we'll qualify, and hopefully we'll be awarded one of the 12 $250,000 grants that Chase and Living Social are doing. And that's me. So if you want to get in contact with me, you can find me on Twitter, Brandon Dove. Our website is pixeljar.net, and my email is brandondove@pixeljar.net.
Show the link again, one back, please. Can anybody
It's
go
missionsmallbusiness.com. All you need to vote is a Facebook account. And
I need to search for
it's 2 words, PixelJar. You can only vote once. And I appreciate the sentiment. So thank you very much. And I learned as well as hopefully you did. So thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
that, I think we're getting close to being out of time here. So, is there any last questions with anything we covered tonight? Anybody didn't get to ask? There were a couple announcements that needed to be made that were sort of made during introductions, but I'd like to make them again. So, I forgot his name. Next to you, too. Yes. Make your announcement real quick.
Oh, well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm interested in, we're growing really quick. I need subcontractors, particularly around WordPress hosting experience. So, because that's all we develop on for all our clients. So please see me if you are interested in doing some work.
Great. Any other announcements before we finish off? Okay. For those of you who are new, we drink both during and after the meeting, so we will network a little bit here and then reconvene at the House of Brews in Huntington Harbor. If you need directions, see me, and otherwise we'll see you next month.
All right.
Thank you for coming.